Warning, the following may not be for the faint of heart. On the morning of the 16th of January at approximately 3 a.m., residents living inside the Wooden Shoe RV Park in Goshen, California were woken up to the sound of gunshots. The police were not notified until a surviving witness called them to report multiple gunshots being discharged inside the Perez residence.
They're coming back. They're coming back. Oh, they're coming back in.
Who's coming back in?
The guys. Please hurry, come on. Someone else is screaming now. No, that's them shooting in the house.
What do you hear now?
Nothing. I don't know if they're out there. I'm too scared. I hear sirens coming. Thank you. My boyfriend is on the board. Shot in the tongue.
Is he breathing?
Is he breathing? Yeah, he's still breathing. He's still breathing. Hold on, baby. Hold on, please.
We have help on the way. Okay, I have the officer right around the corner.
It's okay, baby. You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it. They're here. Okay. They're here. Right here. Come in here. Come here. Here, watch the feet.
10-4, you need an additional ambulance for that one?
Confirm, we're going to need several. She has a baby.
The reporting officers discovered the bodies of 16-year-old Alisa Parras and her 10-month-old baby with fatal gunshot wounds to the back of their heads. The officers called for reinforcements as they knew this case would be more difficult than the usual homicide. As the officers searched throughout the house, they discovered the bodies of several more victims, including 52-year-old Eladio Jr., 19-year-old Marcos, Eladio's son, Eladio's girlfriend, 50-year-old Jennifer Anaya, and Eladio's 72-year-old mother, Rosa. The call made to the police department was made by a surviving witness who had been inside the residence at the time of the attack. There were two other individuals who witnessed the gunmen approaching the residence, but they managed to hide in a nearby trailer. The gunmen did not pursue them and proceeded with the Perez family massacre they had planned. The brutality displayed in the horrific attack left the community in a state of shock. While the Perez family had a criminal history involving drugs, weapons, and violence, they were known to be good people who did not deserve such an ending. Authorities believe the main target of the Perez massacre was 47-year-old Martin Perez, also known as Shooter, who was a member of the gang called Los Sureños. However, it's uncertain since one of the witnesses mentioned the Perez family had an extensive history and feud with the Nano family, who are members of the gang called Norteños. The Norteños gang is often associated with the color red and has connections with a large gang called Nuestra Familia, while Sureños are known to identify with the color blue and are affiliated with the notorious gangs known as La M or La Mafia Mexicana. Martin has been a wanted man since the beginning of January. However, authorities finally caught up to him after the Perez family massacre. Martin was located getting off his Harley Davidson at his second girlfriend's house. When officials knocked on the front door, Martin asked what they wanted. They responded by saying they wanted to speak with him regarding the recent crime. Martin initially resisted arrest, but eventually opened the door to the officers. After tossing his phone to his girlfriend, he became compliant and was taken into custody. Officials obtained a search warrant and searched the house and vehicles, finding a revolver and ammunition inside the house. They also found more ammunition, methamphetamine in a duffel bag, and a container containing traces of heroin in the vehicles and garage. According to court records, Martin is now being held at Tulare County Jail and facing federal charges of possession with intent to distribute 50 grams or more of methamphetamine and a substance containing traces of heroin. Another member of the Perez family who was allegedly associated with the gang Los Sureños was 52-year-old Eladio Jr., one of the victims of the brutal attack. Just a week prior to the massacre, police officials had detained him during a parole compliance check. During the check, they found shell casings outside of his residence, prompting them to obtain a search warrant for his home. The search uncovered methamphetamine, meth pipes, body armor in the closet, an AR-style rifle allegedly stuffed under a mattress, a Ruger P89 handgun, and stockpiled ammunition. Since Eladio Jr. was a convicted felon, he was arrested for being in possession of these items. However, he was released on a $60,000 bail just 4 days later. During the investigation, authorities analyzed the witnesses' statements and surveillance footage retrieved from the Perez residence. They discovered two unmasked gunmen making their way inside the house through the front, one holding a rifle and the other a handgun. In a different camera view, 16-year-old Alisa is seen carefully lifting her 10-month-old baby over the fence before leaping over herself. Tragically, one of the assailants was close behind, and upon catching up to Alisa and her infant, fired fatal shots at both of their heads. In the Perez family massacre, the shooters executed their plan with calculated precision, targeting each family member one by one. Eladio Jr. was the first victim, shot in the leg and then fatally in the torso. Marcos was the next to be murdered with a fatal gunshot to his head. Afterwards, the gunman murdered Jennifer while she slept. The shooters then turned their attention to the remaining occupants of the residence. Rosa was the last to be targeted. As the gunmen made their way through the house, it is believed that Rosa was awoken by the noise and was in the process of getting out of bed to investigate when the shooters entered her room. They forced her on her knees and executed her. One of the gunmen then found Alyssa and her baby outside and shot them both. As authorities continued their search for the two suspects, a $10,000 reward was offered for any information leading to their arrest.
Tragic story reaching law enforcement agencies across the country. Sheriff Boudreaux says he received calls from the ATF, FBI, and Homeland Security.
Well, I spoke last night with an official from the sheriff's office who says that they're describing this as a cartel-style execution.
Tulare County Sheriff Mike Boudreaux says the shooting appears to be tied to gangs and possibly drugs.
What we have since learned through forensics, that it was clear that the shooters stood over the top of the 16-year-old mother and fired rounds into her head. The 10-month-old infant also suffered from the same attack.
I can't understand who can kill a baby like that. I can't wrap my head around it. How can somebody be a monster to do that? I can't comprehend it.
A week after the brutal massacre, authorities began Operation Nightmare, which involved searching several California prisons and performing surveillance for 10 days on their suspects.
Friday morning, Boudreaux shared Operation Nightmare, which included more than 100 detectives, officers, and agents from local and federal agencies.
When forensics were finally able to connect the suspects to the crime, authorities wasted no time and obtained search warrants for 3 different locations in Goshen and Visalia. The search warrants resulted in the arrest of 25-year-old Noah David Beard and 35-year-old Angel Uriarte, also known as Nanu. During Angel's arrest, the situation quickly turned violent, as police officials were fired upon. Thankfully, no federal officer was injured in the altercation before they shot Angel in the torso. He was immediately transported to a nearby hospital where he underwent surgery and is now reported to be in a stable condition.
Based on the evidence collected by detectives, it was determined that 2 of the family members killed and the suspects are on rival gangs, but a motive is still unknown.
Both individuals have a heavy criminal record due to a long history of gun and gang violence as well as drug dealing. The Tulare County's District Attorney's Office has charged both suspects with 6 counts of murder and other special allegations, including committing murder to further the activities of street gangs and using firearms despite being prohibited to own them as felons. Beard pleaded not guilty to both cases on February the 7th, and both individuals are currently being held without bail. Sheriff Boudreaux believes that this should be a death penalty case. If you found the video interesting, please help support the channel by liking and or subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you, and I hope you have a safe day.